The Jersey Swap podcast is sponsored by Apollo Home. Folks, it's really hot outside. You might say hell is real. It might not be the perfect time for a maintenance visit from Apollo Home, but if someone's AC system is not keeping up, if it's not keeping the house as cool as you want it to, give it the red card and give Apollo Home a call. Mention that you're calling because of Cincinnati Soccer Talk, and then mention Mike said we'd give you a deal. There's only one Mike in the office, so he will be listening. Customer service team is always on call. Give them a call or go online to apollohome.com. Welcome back to the Jersey Swap podcast for the biggest stretch of the MLS season to date. Your FC Cincinnati have recovered from a poor May to win 4 straight games. The next 4 matches, they promise to be much more challenging and laborious. Sure, 2 matches against Messi and company in July, but the next one is arguably the biggest. The Hell is Real rematch against Columbus Crew. The Orange and Blue arguably escaped with a point from a 1-1 draw in May. Let's see if someone can take all 3 points this round. To start the season, we sat down with FC Cincinnati's local play-by-play guy, Tom Galerter, and so it's only fair for this upcoming Hell is Real for us to talk with his counterpart in Columbus. We would like to welcome tonight to the podcast play-by-play analyst for the Columbus Crew, Chris Doran. Welcome to the Jersey Swap podcast. I gave him his introduction and plaudits. We've got him right here in the flesh. Chris Doran helping us out, the play-by-play a Columbus Crew guy. Chris, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Jeff, thanks a lot for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you have Hell is Real Derby, the battle for Ohio, whatever you want to call it, however you want to spin it, it's always a great time to have this game. I mean, these things must really excite everybody up in Columbus.
Oh yeah, I mean the fan base absolutely adores this derby, and who wouldn't? You've got 2 cities that are so close together, and 2 teams that are really good. 2 coaches that are a little different, maybe a lot different, but still getting results from the talent they have, and 2 really talented teams. So it's really the best case scenario if you want excitement in a derby like this.
You're getting 2 teams that are surprisingly very similar to each other, able to score consistently, maybe not score in bunches, maybe not putting up 5 goals per game like some team down in Florida. But either way, you've got teams that can still excite in some way. We wanted you to come on, sort of give the perspective from the Columbus Crew point of view. But first, a little bit of small talk. I've seen that you've done a lot of extensive television and radio coverage, both nationally and internationally for soccer. Where did the appeal for soccer sort of come into play in your career?
Well, what I'm doing now is kind of a really nice crossroads of what I've done for most of my life. I played soccer since I was 8 or 9, and then became a broadcaster in college. And the passion for soccer enabled me to, focus on staying fit as I became an adult and moved away from any sort of organized sense of the game, and played, with so many different adult rec groups and that sort of thing. The Sunday nights and the Thursday night late games and the co-ed teams and the, competitive teams. But my broadcasting career is what put the food on the table for the most part. And that was really in commercial radio. And so what I was able to do about 8 years into my commercial radio experience is to merge my passion for soccer with broadcasting, and at Indiana University in Bloomington, provide play-by-play for IU soccer. And most soccer folks who've been around for at least a couple of decades understand the success that the Yeagley family and Coach Mike Freitag have had in Bloomington with Indiana soccer, with 8 national championships. They weren't getting the radio publicity that Indiana basketball and Indiana football were getting at the time. So I was able to offer something that was rather unique and the town really embraced. Gave me a chance to cut my teeth and then get a taste of the real thing professionally with the help of Dwight Burgess, who's the original voice of the Columbus Crew. When he had to move to TV, they needed someone on radio. And I was the first substitute for him when he started doing that in 2000 and 2001.
Excellent. Wow. So, you spend a lot of time with the Crew, but also with the Fire doing their announcements, as well as I think Champions League on television as well.
Yeah.
So you've got a pretty extensive career, and interacts and intersects. Pardon my words here,
Yeah.
with a lot of people in our area. I mean, Tommy Gallerter, Tommy G in our area does our own play by play. How interactive are you with the likes of Tommy G and other P by P guys?
I think Tom and I talk probably once or twice a year. We spoke earlier in the season when it came to CONCACAF Champions Cup. Um, and we tracked one another, obviously Tom covering Cincinnati and the work that we had done last year for CONCACAF Champions Cup. So we compared notes on that, what it was like, uh, what to expect. It wasn't a really long conversation. I think I actually had questions for him versus the other way around. We check in prior to Hell is Real derbies, in part because I need a Cincinnati perspective on the weekly show that I do. And so, like, you're tapping into me, I tap into him. And then, of course, we cross paths on game night at the stadium, whether it's at lower.com or at TQL Stadium.
Excellent. I mean, he's been with the team for such a long time, ever since day one, 10 years in the making. Um, I guess that sort of brings me into sort of like the nostalgia that we're feeling this season. Especially, going into 2019. I think that's when you had started the radio broadcast with the crew in 2019.
Well, that's when my career for the
Hmm.
third time started with the Columbus Crew, but radio has always been a part for 30 years with the Black and Gold. Yeah.
I mean, using that maybe as sort of a milestone or a fence post, how do you perceive sort of the evolution of the crew since that year 2019? That was also when the ownership group sort of exchanged hands, and sort of the crew had their, I don't know if you call it a version 2, version 3 form come out. How do you see the evolution of the crew over that amount of time?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to call it a version. You can reference the ownership groups as having changed hands in late 2018, and for good reason. I mean, this club was going to move south, and the previous owners had pretty much left the entire operation to pot. And I don't mean the stuff that's grown in the hills. I mean, it was just it was a holy mess. The academy was not getting the attention it needed. The light bulbs weren't being changed at Historic Crew Stadium, and it
Mhm.
was an absolute travesty what was happening to the club until the Save the Crew movement came along. And I credit every bit of energy that was contributed to that effort by anyone and everyone in Columbus and in Ohio to keep the club here in Columbus. And so grateful that the Haslam family, the Johnson family, and the Edwards family stepped up and said, we're gonna open the checkbooks. Let's see what we can do. What happened in 2019 was the layout of the blueprint for what was to come in the 2.5 years after that, because immediately following that, it was the hiring of Tim Bezpachenko, probably
Mhm.
one of the best and toughest general managers this league has seen,
Absolutely.
taking the reins and putting this team back where it belonged. In 2020, we of course won MLS Cup. You can footnote that with the pandemic.
Right.
It doesn't matter to me. It's still a trophy. But more importantly, it wasn't just keeping the crew in Columbus. It was, what are we going to do next? A brand new stadium in the Arena District to the tune of $300 million. The expansion of Historic Crew Stadium, not just to keep that stadium
Mm.
alive for Crew 2, but to make it an indoor training facility for when the first team and second team are in town during the winter months with the dome. And then again, the reinvestment in the facility to make it a world-class training facility, modeled after training facilities in Europe at Ohio Health Performance Center. So the investment was not just to keep the team in Columbus. The investment was, how are we going to make this the best team possible? And the facilities were the first answer, and then the investment in the roster came after that. We've seen a gradual bump in the investment in the roster from a middle of the pack investment to an upper third. investment. And so what's come from that is an extremely high demand for season tickets at lower.com field to the tune of a sellout in 2025, and we're nearing that for 2026. The expansion of lower.com field to bring more premium seating in for next year, which is critical because we don't have demand for $35 seats. We've got demand for suite level experiences at lower.com. And then Wilfried Nancy and the team has delivered in terms of success on the field at home. We've only lost 6 times in since Wilfried Nancy took over. We've only lost 6 games in all competitions at lower.com field. That winning feeling is something that people want to leave the home stadium with. And you've given me a moment to brag about my team, but I will acknowledge that FC Cincinnati has done similar work in the sense that you've got that first-class facility to train at. You've got the downtown stadium, which is terrific. And Pat Noonan and the players have fulfilled the promise to the fans, and that is providing a winning experience when they pay for tickets to see a game at TQL Stadium.
I think for the most part, this ownership group, while out of the gate in both USL and MLS, maybe thought that they had their own plans, but once they saw how important things like investments in a really good training facility, investments within the community, I think they started to realize that it's more than just ponying up for a brand new stadium, that there's so much more to it. Yeah. And so I think your ownership group also hits the nail on the head that way too. We have 2 very similar teams that are trying to bring success, bring prestige to their communities, their areas of the land. And at this point of the season, that's what makes it a great competition.
Yeah, I agree. So you've got that heartbeat going when these 2 teams meet on the field, and that leaves aside all the back and forth between supporters groups, the back and forth between fan bases. It's still 2 quality organizations going at it on game night.
And as much as I think a lot of people will bring banter into it, when the crew really needed help, the Save the Crew hashtag turned into Saved the Crew. A lot of Cincinnati fans and supporters were right there with you guys. We wanted to have this derby, this organic derby that created back in 2017. We wanted to stick around, and I really think both teams are seeing it that way now.
I'm not going to say that. There were plenty who wanted to see the Columbus Crew go to Austin, but we're not holding grudges. We don't hold grudges in Columbus, except for Michael Bradley when he's playing against the Black and Gold. But other than that, all's good.
We all have villains on the other side of the pitch.
Sure,
you can definitely name that. Let's go to the pitch primarily. Bringing up the current Columbus Crew roster right now. I've spoken with a few of the people at Massive Report, a few of the people at other Columbus podcasts, basically looking at how 2024, how the end of that came about. In your opinion, what do you feel this team was missing by the end of 2024? Or is it easy to dismiss that it was the Red Bull doing all the things that they needed to do in the postseason?
I think the only thing we were missing were a couple more goals. And that's pretty much it. We had played 50 games in that season and had run the table in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, so to speak, becoming the first team to go down to Mexico without a win in a 2-leg series and come out with a victory against a Mexican team. There were substantial mile marks that were hit in the 2024 season. The Red Bulls were not a complete team going into the playoffs. They had suffered. They had the worst 10-game record going into the playoffs than any other team. But they started to get some momentum with the return of their DP in the midfield, and he comes in having played only 20 or so games. I don't even know what the number was, but it wasn't a 34-game schedule. And had the energy that he needed to, at times felt like putting the team on his back. We draw with them in the second leg, and it's just not enough to get over the hump. The playoffs are a different monster, Jeff, than the regular season. The regular season's a different monster than CONCACAF. CONCACAF's a different monster than League's Cup. All of those games take on a different sort of they demand a different approach from a squad. And while I applaud our coaching staff for staying true to the principles of play that got us to where we were at the end of 2024, the Red Bulls were the better team in the end. And I was, hats off to them. There's really not much more you can say or do with that regard. In that regard.
Yeah, it makes me wince when we have to say the same thing about New York City, the way that they dispatched us in 3 matches.
Yeah.
I being the natural New Englander that I am, I hate tipping my cap to any sort of New York team, but
Okay.
that's water under the bridge.
That's because they come up during the summer and vacation, don't they?
For the most part. But so moving on from that, I mean, it was I think a postseason going into a 2025 preseason that felt a little tenuous. You knew that the signals were that Cucho Hernandez was being attracted by a European play, but we also didn't see the likes of Alexandre Matan and Christian Ramirez also leaving through either free agency or transfer. Was there any, I think, confidence in the Cruz attack with these major pieces being lost?
Oh, yeah. Let's clarify. Matan was not brought back. And that was because he didn't fall into a likely position in the evolution of this team. Wilfried Nancy's going into his 3rd year for the first time as a head coach in Major League Soccer. He's got an idea of how he wants to play. In fact, he started to introduce 3rd-year components of his game model late last season. And I, give Alex Matan all sorts of credit, but he just didn't figure into the equation. Christian Ramirez is on the high end of most attacking players' ages. He wants to be a regular starter. I don't know what coach told him about being a regular starter, but I don't think it was in the plan. He was coming off the bench a lot, hobbled by injury on occasion, felt like he needed to be a starter. He wanted to go look for a place where he could be a starter. It just so happened to be the team where, he grew up in Los Angeles. Good for him. That's great. With regards to Cucho Hernandez, we always knew he was going to leave. When he came over to Major League Soccer and signed with the Crew, we knew right away that he was going to leave. I mean, Jeff, he was coming from a Premier League team, albeit he was loaned out several times. But he was coming from a Premier League team that had been relegated. You think he's going to come over at the age of 23 or 24 and say, you know what, for $1.8 million, I'll go ahead and put my feet up and retire over here? He's not. He's a $5 million striker when he's on his game in Europe, not here, but in Europe. He goes over and he's last I saw, he may be courted by another team other than Real Betis, but he found his way through his experience with 2.5 years of Caleb Porter and head coach Wilfried Nancy, and got the accolades he deserved. I mean, you guys have got to have probably gotten tired of it last year. It didn't matter how well we did each week. You'd open up the MLS website and it was Lionel Messi and Cucho Hernandez. And, he was the second star of the league for at least a year, if not longer. So we knew he was going to go. It was just a matter of when. And he just happened to leave at the end of the preseason, which worked in Real Betis's favor, I think, from a cash standpoint. It didn't look great for us, but we weren't going to hold him back. I think the general manager, Issa Tall, made absolutely every decision correctly when it came to, getting the offer, grabbing Cucho from the locker room, going out onto the pitch and walking around with him and getting him to say, this is what I want. And so that's how it all went. And, no team in this league wants to be known as the club that holds players back from their dreams. Cucho wants to play in the World Cup next year. Absolutely. He wants to do it in the hemisphere where Colombia is located, and he wants to be wearing the Colombian colors. He was told by the Colombian national team he's not going to be called up if he's playing in Major League Soccer. They don't have the respect for the league down there in Colombia. He needs to be playing in Europe. And so the chance to play in La Liga came up, and he bit. And, in the 6 months that he played really well. He really did. And that team was very good.
Yeah. And I think we're seeing a little bit when you say it pays to be in Europe, especially if you want to be on some sort of national team. We're seeing Miles Robinson getting called in, for example, for the US team, but he's not really getting the start. And I think some people might say playing in the MLS is not the same as playing in Europe. If you were a starting center back like a Chris Richards, like what Tim Ream used to be, you're going to get looks at starting for the U.S. team, and perhaps we're seeing a little bit of a similar thing with Robinson, but in a different, I think, vernacular.
Well, let me be really clear. It was the Colombian national team that told Cucho if he's playing in MLS, he's not going to get the call into the national team. I'm not advocating for any player to leave MLS in an effort to become a part of their national team. And I'm not suggesting that that's even necessary. All I'm saying is that was the stipulation that he was faced with. If you want to go down that road, we can, but we got a big game this weekend. So let's stick to Hell is Real this weekend.
Good call. Good call. The Jersey Swap podcast is also sponsored by Beyond Exercise. Beyond Exercise is a local physical therapy and fitness business that helps people stay active and injury-free. In fact, they help some of our local MLS, MLS Next Pro, and FCC Academy players with their health and performance needs. Check out their suite of services at gobeyondexercise.com. Let's look at the two pieces that you have, the bigger pieces that you have brought on to sort of supplement some of the offense. Daniel Gazdag transferred from Philadelphia to the Crew, and also Ibrahim Aliou from Houston. Can you sort of give us sort of your update of how they're integrating with this team?
Yeah. Well, Ibrahim Aliou is just a delightful guy. He played in Croatia. When he was in Nigeria, he grew up and played in the academy. When you play in the academy in Nigeria, as Ibrahim explained it to me, you're leaving home, and it's really tough. Now, look, you're 12, 13, 14 years of age. As much as 14-year-old boys don't want to admit it, they're going to miss their parents. They're going to miss their siblings. They're going to miss their neighborhood. But that's what the kids had to do, and that's what he did. Ended up going to Croatia, playing professionally, came to the U.S. and played in Houston. Was, a side goal scorer. Great for him. Played mostly, I think, a number 9, sometimes out on the wing. We've used him as a 9, but we also used him as a wing back in a 5-back system. And I got to tell you, I like him as a wing back. Now, we've got plenty of players, especially with Max Arston back from the national team and Mo Farsi playing well. But he can make things really uncomfortable for opposing wingbacks in that role. He's been terrific, has a couple of goals, has the second fastest goal in Crew history now after having scored just a couple of weeks ago at lower.com field. So good for him. Daniel Gazdag's a terrific guy as well. Came to us in the extended MLS window and has already signed his extension. So he's going to be with us for a little while. Gazdag, as you know, was the leading goal scorer for the last 3 years for Philadelphia, is the club's leading goal scorer in the history of the club, and played in a different system than what he's having to learn here in Columbus. Wilfried Nancy told us that one of the things he regrets is putting Daniel in right away. Daniel got off a plane on Tuesday, walked the training pitch Wednesday, trained with the team Thursday and Friday, and was on the plane Saturday to St. Louis. He played 45 minutes against St. Louis, a game we won on the road. It is more common for Coach Nancy to take a player who's unfamiliar with his system and sit him on the bench for a couple of games. Let him see it. Let him feel it. Let him hear the feedback the coaches are giving to the players so that he better understands his role when he steps in. That didn't happen with Gazdag. He was in right away. He's played every game since. I think that's been a challenge. I think that's been a challenge for both coach and player. But Gazdag's extremely smart. And he has figured into the buildup in the midfield very, very nicely. Because of the way opponents play Columbus, and because Columbus is comfortable building into the attacking third, not always, on the run in a counter attacking situation, Daniel has had to kind of figure out where he needs to be for that second line of attack. So if Rossi's going to one post and Mo Farsi's going to another post, where does Gazdag fit into this? Does he crowd the center back in that spot, or does he hang at the 12 spot or the 18 and wait for the rebound or the second chance? Those are the moments that I think we're still trying to find. But Gazdag in possession, Gazdag in build up, Gazdag in combination play is a thing of beauty, and it's just another level for Columbus when it comes to taking on opponents.
And that's one of the things I think that really terrifies me a little bit about Columbus, that the possession play is something that they're really adept at. I think there's been only 2 games this season that they've actually trailed in possession. So they're moving the ball, and to put somebody like Gazdag in there who can facilitate behind from the likes of Darlington Nagbe to, like I said, the players in the post, it feels like you give him the opportunity to learn the system, he's going to punish opposition like that.
Yeah, and I would imagine that Daniel's probably put a little pressure on himself, but we've heard from Evan Bush and Darlington Nagbe and a lot of other players about how during training or even in games, they're putting their hand on his shoulder and saying, "Look, the goals are going to come. Just relax. Everything you're doing is perfect." So as a customary goal scorer, maybe there's some frustration on his part. He's got a couple of assists. I think he's settled in nicely. His family just moved to Columbus a couple weeks ago, and that has brought, I think, a sense of wholeness for him in this move from Philly to Columbus. He was just beloved in Philadelphia. And even when we went back and played Philly with Daniel starting that day, there were so many Gazdag jerseys in the stands that kids had invested in, or parents' kids had invested in. They just loved him. He got a lot of messages when the trade went down. But I think he's become a really important part of what we do, and it's fun to watch him play.
It's definitely going to be, I think, Gazdag in the middle there to start this game. But let's also look at how Wilfried Nancy is going to compose this team. It sounds to me like Patrick Schulte is going to try to be in this squad on Saturday. But have you got sort of your eyes on what the report is looking like for injuries or the such?
No, we won't get that until tomorrow, Friday afternoon at 5:30. Patrick has trained now in full, and he actually was a part of the trip to Seattle last week. Excuse me, did not dress for that game. He's been away with the oblique injury for a number of games. So, even just the rhythm of an away game may have been what the coaching staff was looking to get him back into. But if Patrick doesn't start, we've been in great hands with Evan Bush. The 39-year-old veteran is 3-0-2 in his starts this year. Had 2 clean sheets and has been tremendous. So if Evan Bush is the goalkeeper on Saturday night, there's no concern on the part of the Columbus Crew.
Yeah, I think the starting lineup I don't see too many concerns, including whether or not you immediately bring him back in. Max Arfson going back into perhaps the starting lineup. I really thought he performed very well in this U.S. national team training camp and Gold Cup roster. Would you consider him sort of the MVP of this team, or is it a little early to sort of say that?
Of the Columbus Crew?
Yes, I certain, if maybe not if MVP, definitely most improved.
Yeah, I mean, Max has showed so much potential over the last couple of years. His comfort level on the ball has now moved to comfort level on the ball and taking defenders on 1v1. And one of the reasons why he has to do that is because he no longer is just going around the outside corner. He's cutting inside. And so he's, in the last year, I think, did really nicely getting around that outside back. Now he's either going around the outside back or he's cutting inside, and he's leaving that defender outside. So he's created another way in which he can contribute. And the other thing that we're seeing from Max is that when he cuts inside, he's not always looking for a pass to a runner. either at the far post or at the top of the 18. When he cuts inside, if he gets a little bit of space, he's looking to put the ball on frame from 19 or 20 yards out with the right foot to the far post, beat the keeper, and get the goal. So the evolution of Max has been substantial over the last 2 years. It's been a delight to see. And one of the ways that I get the sense that he's feeling good about what he's doing, win or lose, is that when he steps up in front of the microphone and talks to us, the members of the media, he has got his back straight, his posture's perfect, his voice projection is there, he's enthusiastic. If you start talking to him about fun things, he's all in on that. He was a little bit quiet early on and having to be not dragged in front of the media, but sat down in front of the media. Now the man just walks in there and he's just got so much confidence. And that translates on the field. I just feel like he's got the confidence that he deserves to have, and it shows in the way he plays too.
Yeah, he's one of the guys that I've really circled as sort of like could be an X factor in this game. Is there anybody on FC Cincinnati that you have circled in red? Like, watch out for these people. You might be giving us the obvious answers because there have been two people who have been scoring in bunches for us.
Right.
But is there anybody that's an X factor that could really determine the outcome of this game?
Yeah, I think both teams are really solid defensively. I worked for the Big Ten Network and covered Roman Celentano's career at Indiana University. Delightful kid, a real competitor. It's been so much fun to watch him prosper in the professional league. So it's really fun for me to watch Roman play. To know that Roman and Patrick Schulte are pretty good friends always makes it interesting to me. To see the two of them and their size on the field, before a match, and realize that the object is to beat those two massive men in their independent goals to one post or another, only underscores to me just how difficult this game is, especially when these two teams meet and the limited opportunities to actually score. I mean, you have to beat these guys with something extra special. You really do. And so I will always keep my eye on the performance of Celentano. Backline is strong. What's going to happen on the wings? Is there pace? Is there enough pace? I'm glad we're playing this game with a week's rest, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think we're both very happy because I think the last time we faced each other was on a short week of rest. We had our Wednesday matches, and then suddenly it's Hellas Real all over again. Didn't give us too much time to really build up the mystique of this game, and that's half the excitement. I'm really looking forward to Saturday. What does the crew need to do, bar none, to take points away from TQL Stadium?
Well, I think they need to be true to themselves. I think they learned a lesson with Philadelphia a couple weeks ago. They got pushed around a bit. I don't perceive Cincinnati is going to play that way. You guys are at home. You already have the advantage with the home crowd. But if Cincinnati gets the sense that a little more physical contact is going to bump Columbus off their rhythm, I think you're going to see a little more bumping back from this squad than you've seen in seasons past. And as I mentioned, the game against Philadelphia 2 Sundays ago was a really great example of how Columbus not only withstood it, but gave it right back in certain circumstances. And I'm not talking about anything cheap. I'm just saying, we can do it too. So what I think Columbus has got to do is stay true to themselves, absorb the energy of the room in the first 5 or 10 minutes, but settle into their method for playing very quickly. I think there was a large portion of the last time we met because we played on a Saturday with no Wednesday break, where in the second half, Cincinnati felt like they were chasing the ball a lot, doing a lot of work defensively. And if we can remind Cincinnati of what it's like to defend against Columbus, I think there could be some advantages there for the Crew. On the flip side of things, though, this game becomes a track meet. You got to track your two guys with a dozen goals each, and make sure that everyone's helping where they need to help. One of the games, I think it was the Cincinnati game, we started to see a lot of recovery runs from our midfielders to help on defense. Became a point of emphasis for the coaching staff because we weren't getting enough of it. It was too much of Zawadzki doing his thing, Moreira doing his thing, Shaburko, Amundsen doing their thing. We need that help back. We need Max to make that run back. We need Darlington to make that run back and be that cover defender, the second defender, in situations where Zawadzki is isolated 1v1. Because Denke and Evander are going to do their thing. It's going to be a great match, man. It's always a great chess match. Pat Noonan, Wilfried Nancy, Cincinnati, Columbus. It's just always going to be great, and I'm looking forward to it.
And the best thing is you've got a lot of star power here. You've got all-stars from both teams, professionalism of the likes of Darlington Nagbe and Diego Rossi, the star power from our side with Evander and Kevin Denke. I'll say from a Cincinnati point of view, we have to do what's really, you say, stay true to yourself. Our truth has been to get the lead early and then build upon it. That's something I think that has really hurt us in the past, where we've had a 1-0 lead. We've let teams come back in instead of extending a lead. Over the past 4 matches or so, we've gotten a lead and we've found a way to put a second goal in, make it a 2-goal cushion before the dam starts to break. We can't do that against the likes of Columbus. We've had two goal leads against Columbus, and we've seen it collapse. I think this is going to have to be a game where the offense has to figure out where they can put it in their playbook, a way to reverse the field after all of this possession and deposit a quick goal to make it a 2-0, a 3-1 match. I'm not going to ask you your predictions for this because I think in the box, you sort of have to pull away from it. I have a feeling you're going to pull for and predict a Crew win. But
are you asking?
I can. I mean,
Jeff, I'm a homer. Okay. I don't know how Tom is, but I call radio for the Columbus Crew. Okay. I'm not interested in being even with anybody. There's no equity in my booth. It's all for the black and gold. Okay.
All right. Well, that makes it easy. My job easy. What do you predict for a final score here?
I don't think it's a scoreless game. And I think there are 3 goals in the match. And I think Daniel Gazdag is going to introduce himself to the Queen City.
Well, I mean, he doesn't really need too much introduction. He's punished us.
He's done some damage
in the past. If you're going to, I'm doing my math here. If you're going to make it a 2-1 Crew victory, perhaps.
Correct.
I'm going to go the other way. I'll say a 2-1 victory for the sense that when I've crunched the numbers here, when Matt Miazga has played for us, it's usually resulted in a point or 3.
Okay.
The 3 games that he missed, we've lost 2, and we've managed to draw the 0-0 draw last season. Of course, he missed that playoff match a few years ago, and we could feel it. But I also feel that we feel it when we've got him dictating traffic in the back. He's been a really solid captain voice back there, and as much as the pieces around him are moving back and forth and being replaced, he's been the constant. And if he can give us 90 quality minutes, I see a 2-1 victory for Cincinnati.
All right, here's the next question. Who's going to be in the referee's ear the most, Matt Miazga or Diego Rossi?
That's a really good question. I mean, Rossi is your captain for these games?
No, he's not.
Then I think
he's our public defender, and he makes the case on every whistle, and I adore it. I really do. He speaks great English. He's obviously fluent in Spanish, and he can take it to a referee all night long.
Yeah, I'm going to say that we're probably going to have at least 4 yellow cards in this game. I
Okay.
don't.
Okay.
If anything, probably three of them might be just from disturbing the peace more than fouls or anything
Probably.
like that.
One of the interesting things about this game, and I don't know if the supporters pay attention to this, but these games have generally always been very clean from a foul standpoint.
Mhm.
Both these teams want to win. They want to win playing soccer, and I adore that about both clubs.
Yeah, I don't think there's been a single red card in it. No, I take that back. There has been a red card, hasn't there? I think it was the
Oh
2-2
boy.
draw. I can't remember the year, but it was someone got sent off, and then the crew fought back, and that was not the shush game. It was the second shush game. It was, I think,
I don't know. I've slept since then, but I believe you.
Cucho catching the beer and chugging it. I think
Oh
that
yeah, it
was
was the drawdown in Cincinnati. Yeah.
yeah. But as you said, there hasn't been much in terms of red cards. Hopefully,
No, what
we
I
don't see
said
those.
was there haven't been much in the way of fouls.
Right,
Just to be
right.
clear. Yeah. Just because it's a clean game, because both teams want to play.
Both teams want to win. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, this has been an outstanding 40 minutes.
Well,
I'm glad
good.
that we had all of this time to talk. I get nervous in front of people who are heard locally and nationwide. So that's
Ah,
just how I am with these types of podcasts. I want to thank you for your time. How can we sort of like interact with you over social media, if at all?
well, I have no interest in hearing from any of you, but if you'd like to join me on Twitter, you're welcome to. I'm on Twitter. Instagram is pretty limited, and Facebook, I don't even know where to find it on my computer. So there you go. Find me on Twitter.
Thank you very much. I mean, and you can find him on Twitter. Don't bug him. I say that for the fans. Be good
That's fine.
fans. Be good rivals. Bring it for
Yeah.
90 minutes, though. That brings us to the end of another Jersey Swamp. My thanks to Chris for his time. If you guys want to hear more of these podcasts, go to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Go to your favorite podcasting platform. We're right there if you search for us, or go to Cincy Soccer Talk. Search for us on social media. Chris, I say this to all my guests, to all my friends: keep your kit clean. Thank you very much for your time.
Jeff, thanks for having me. It's been terrific.
Outstanding.